about a little bit, but
I'm glad you asked that, because normally I have like a presentation that lists all that so I can talk to it. So we hire twice a year, January and July. So those are our 2 hiring periods. The application goes out for January and August, and the application for July goes out in February, all right? Now, because it's ESPN, we get a lot of applicants. We can only keep the job open online for 1 week, all right? So, it's really important that you follow our social accounts on Twitter and Facebook, because they're the ones, or Twitter and Instagram, because they're the ones that are actually telling you when that job goes live on our career site. So that's why it's important to follow that. But basically, we hire twice a year, January, July, and we're looking to hire roughly 15 to 30 people per hiring class. So anywhere up to 60 people a year we're bringing in to the company, which is more than any other group within the company. So we're definitely hiring the most. But yeah, so twice a year, January and July. It's important to make sure you're following the social, because that's when you'll know when it goes live, because it will only be up for a week. And roughly that's the size of the classes. What else? Any other questions about that?
What's the process after you apply? You then find out if you're through the first wave?
Yeah, so once you apply, the first round is a phone screen from talent acquisition. They will give you a call, basically 30-minute conversation, talking just to you about what your goals are. Obviously trying to know whether you want to be on air, behind the camera, all of those type of things. And then if you move past that round, it becomes the sports knowledge interview. And then if you pass that round, then we fly you to Bristol for an all-day kind of car wash type interview, where you go through a group exercise, you go through multiple one-on-one interviews, lunch, and a tour of campus.
And that's where the actual job would be, in Bristol, Connecticut?
Yeah, so the job is located in Bristol, Connecticut for the 1-year program. However, if LA, Austin, Charlotte, those office locations are of interest to you, we have, the last 6 people LA have hired have come from our program. The last 4 Austin hired came from our program. And God, the amount we sent to Charlotte's out of control. So, if those out of offices are something you're interested in, then we'll make sure that once you graduate the program, we'll prepare you to be the best candidate when one of those jobs opens up so you can transfer.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Sam Guzman. One of my questions is, I follow you guys on Instagram, and
Yep.
I've seen that some production assistants have had the opportunity to travel to like different UFC cards or
Yep.
College football campuses. How often does that happen, or is it just a one-time thing?
No, a lot, especially in the live event space. My production assistants that work on boxing travel every week, almost all year. If you work on tennis in event production, I mean, good luck. You get to spend like a month and a half in Australia, a month and a half in England, a month and a half in Queens, New York, if you like Queens. Hey, Astoria is pretty nice. I could say that. I lived in New York City for 7 years. So, no, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to travel. My game day crew's down at University of Florida this weekend right now. I have 6 employees that work on game day, 3 travel every week. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to travel. It just depends on where you're, and what part. Because if you're working on SportsCenter, it's a little bit fewer and far between. However, we do a lot of SportsCenter on the road. So a lot of what comes to traveling, though, is earning it. So, right, it's about your performance, and the high performers are the ones that get to go. And so, yeah, it really comes down to your performance. But, yes, there's a lot of travel that is available to our employees.
Thank you.
Yep.
How's it going? My name is Mike Warren.
Nice to meet you.
What percentage of your interns or employees would you say get jobs after going through the cohort?
I would say interns, over the last 2 intern groups, I've converted 8 of our 9 interns over the last spring and this past summer. So intern conversions are really important to us. We're making a strong investment into our interns. So we haven't gone through a full rotation yet of graduating our first cohort. We originally started with 21. We're at 20 right now, which, to me is okay. I mean, I think this being our first time around, we lived and learned and learned a few things about who we were looking to target. But yeah, I mean, I think we expect to graduate all 20 of them. They're all doing really, really well right now. And so, yeah, I mean, it is being a development program. We're hoping that performance is never an issue, right? We have dedicated training managers and training coordinators that are going to work with everybody. So there's never going to be a time where you're asked to do something where you haven't been trained on it. training is really the most important thing, and developing our people is really the most important thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rob Sony, when you're in that program, is that a paid position or is that
Absolutely.
Like, okay.
So the salary for the role, I believe, is like $37,000 a year. It is full benefits. You know, health, dental, vision. There is a relocation bonus that comes with it as well, which is pretty awesome. I think it's something like anywhere from like $2,000 to $8,000, depending on where you're traveling from. So yeah, no, it is a full-time position. But like I said, it is a one-year program, so there is an opportunity to be let go at the end of the year if your performance is not up to par. However, it is a full-time role with benefits and everything that comes with it. I would say most of our first-year employees probably make between $40,000 and $50,000 with overtime, because overtime is anybody that worked at ESPN knows this. Overtime, especially at the lower levels, is really how people make their money, and there's a lot of it. You know, just about in any sport, anything like that. So yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? Well, listen, I just want to at least thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope to come back soon. One thing for everyone, I do not have any more business cards with me. So what I will do is I'll make sure Gus, obviously he has my contact information already, but I will make sure that he can distribute that to you guys if this program is something that you might be interested in. And then we can have some conversations about that, next steps. But really, again, focused on, you know, growing our employees, and I really hope that we can, you know, build a strong pipeline of candidates coming from Full Sail to ESPN, because I think what you're learning here and the people you're learning from will set you ahead of all of our other candidates in terms of being able to come in the door and be successful right away. So I'm really excited about it, and I really hope that we can continue this relationship, and I can get back down here in the future and talk to you guys a little bit more, and hopefully share some content with you guys, and discuss some of that type of stuff as well. So again, thank you for having me. It's been awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks. I'll take off, so.
And we will do some IL sessions to simulate job interviews. Some of you have been through that process for outside of Full Sail stuff. Some of you went through that process with the WWE. But it can be a little intimidating. So we want to, like everything else, we want to get you prepared to do that. Quick show of hands, how many people know what the Vezina Trophy is? How many people can explain the Stableford scoring system? How many people can calculate OPS? Okay, these are the kinds of questions you'll get asked when you interview at ESPN. Okay, when I interviewed there, I was so ready, and then I got asked like 2 questions, and it was all about producing because I was starting as a producer. But as a PA, they will put you through the gauntlet of that kind of stuff. So take time out of your week to bone up on things that maybe you don't know very well. Those things that I just asked are pretty random. But like Dan said yesterday, how many of you can name every head coach of an NFL team right now? Right? You think, oh yeah, Bucks. You know, stuff happens. So these are things you got to start thinking about. Okay, our next guest is from career development here at Full Sail, and you guys have heard me say a bunch. We've got all this great staff. We've been to the top and back, and we know everybody everywhere, and that's true. And we're very happy to try to help make connections and send phone calls and emails for you to get you guys jobs. But Full Sail has a great career development team, and they can help in a lot of ways too. So please welcome Bethany Williams.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me be here today. I wanted to just quickly say hello and let you know a little bit about career development. First, our location. We are in Building 110 on the 2nd floor. That's right across from the live venue behind the McDonald's. Every Wednesday, we have open door office hours from 11 to 2. So at any point during your program, you can stop by, and we can provide support for you at any point of the job search. 3 months prior to graduation, you'll be assigned an advisor. Right now, that's me. So if you're graduating in 2019, I'm your advisor. Hello. And you can schedule appointments with me. You'll also gain access to our Career Sync portal, where we post info about job leads, mostly production leads. and you can upload your resume, learn about events and opportunities. We're regularly bringing employers and established alums back to campus for workshops, panel discussions, that kind of thing. So we'll keep you in the loop about all of that. My background's in TV production. I worked on staff at Letterman for 14 years. Part of my role there was interviewing candidates for the Page program. So I'm very passionate about making sure that you guys are all prepped and ready to pursue these great employment opportunities. So if you'd ever like to talk about those general HR questions to expect in an interview, or if you want to set up a mock interview, we can do that too. Most of all, just know that we are here to support you. There's no time frame on our services in career development, so you can talk to us even after graduation for as long as you need our support. We have a global network of Full Sail alum, and I'd love to help you to try to connect to those people that make the most sense for you in your career as well. So I'll leave some business cards in the back. Please feel free to schedule an appointment or swing by on an open door Wednesday to come see me. Thanks so much.
Okay, Chris Burns is now going to talk about the Boston Red Sox. Sorry that mic's broken. Oh well, sit down. Does anybody in the room not know Chris Burns? All right, yeah. That's a good thing, by the way. You should know, people should know you. All right, you all know our next guest. He comes to us from Milford, Connecticut. He's got a sweet jump shot, and he's really proud of everything we're doing here. We have not had a Q&A with him in probably close to a year. All the other times he's been back have been more formal and kind of streamlined stuff. So this really is an open forum. If you want to ask him about a Sandler film, you know, be my guest. But he's the boss, and he's our best pal, as Gary likes to say. Dan Patrick.
Thank you, guys. Good to see some familiar faces here, but also I can see that wide-eyed look of those who just got on campus. And you're not alone here. And as Gus said, make sure you reach out to somebody, because this can be a pretty intimidating room. You're all looking for basically the same thing. But if you can find, talk to these members of the faculty, because they have experience, a lot of experience. And we try to understand where you are in this situation, in this process. The first 5 months, it's a real difficult transition. After that, then I think you find your way. But find your way in the class, and take Kevin up on what he offered there. Even if you don't want to be a PA, follow up with that. Go through the process. And, we were talking about this yesterday on just common knowledge of sports. We can teach you everything. I can't teach you sports. You got to want it. Who got fired? The Padres manager. Who got fired? Do you know his name? Yeah. See, these are things that you would have to know right away. And if you want to specialize, I was talking to Kevin. He said, we're looking for somebody who eats and sleeps baseball. They know everything about baseball. Or it could be soccer. If you do specialize and you want to specialize, then great. But knowledge is something we cannot provide you. I can give you the tools. We've provided the tools for you to become a better broadcaster. You have to know your craft. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to stand up in front of somebody. Even if you're just a PA, I want you to present yourself as if you're going to be on the air. Let them know who you are. You must make yourself stand out. With your resume, why am I going to hire you? What do you do differently than somebody else? And that's really important, because they go through all of these resumes. I mean, Kevin goes through thousands of resumes. What's going to make you stand out? What kind of jobs did you volunteer for? Were you a runner? Did you volunteer to work a game? Did you do some jobs that, are not glorified jobs, that there's no notoriety to it? As much as they see your face, they know your name. And that's what it is, a lot of it. And guys that are on the air now, Rob Stone, who works at Fox, he does their soccer, he does their college football pregame show. He was a PA for me. Mark Summer, who's one of the people who runs the Golf Channel, was a PA. He ran prompter for me. You start low, but you start low, and then you are able to build, grow. And once you're inside a place, you hear about these jobs, an opening. Hey, I hear they're looking for. That's what you want. 2 of my jobs that I got because I was inside. Not, a great job, but it was a great company, and that's another thing. Join a place that you want to work at. And as I said yesterday to the graduates, you want to get to go to work, not have to go to work. And when you find that, it's such a luxury. And I still get to go to work after all these years. I miss it. I had to take yesterday off for graduation, and I missed it because that's what I do. I enjoy it every day, and you have to love it because you're going to have jobs in this business that you're not going to like, but you're going to have to do it to get to the next, place in your career. Everybody had to do that, but if you're all in, then make sure that you let everybody know you're all in because you can't half-ass this. You can't. They'll see right through it. But you have a chance to do something. There's no other graduate in America who will have the talent, the skill, the opportunity that we're providing you here. That's why I put my name on this. Gus hired the best faculty that you'll find in America because we've done it. A lot of these other schools, you may have somebody teaching you who wasn't in the business or wasn't on air or wasn't producing for 25 years or directing for 20 years. That's why I wanted people who've done this because then you can say to them, how do I do it? Because you've done it. Instead of, I can read a manual and tell you about it, but we know when it's crunch time and you got to get a highlight and you got to cut it and it's 45 seconds of a 2-hour game and you got to run down the hall, hand the shot sheet to Scott Van Pelt and hope you got all those names right. And the pressure of that. And there's no better feeling for those PAs when you read a highlight and you read it correctly and there's no mistakes and they capture what they need to capture. But that's you, that's your imagination. I can't teach you that. I can't say, you got a minute to cut the Arizona Cardinal highlight. How you do it will be different how you do it and how you do it. But that's what makes you stand out. Get the essence of what you need to do and make sure you do it right. And it's not easy. You got to start out perfect as a PA and only get better. It's like an umpire. We don't want mistakes, but you'll make mistakes, and then you grow from those mistakes, and then you never make those mistakes again. But you're here for a reason. And the reason is we'll prepare you. That's my pledge. We will prepare you better than anybody else. This isn't a college experience. This is a life experience. This is a job. You're getting a head start on a job. And your parents are believing in us too. You are, but your parents have to as well. And my word to them, as I said to the graduates' parents yesterday, I lived up to what I said I would do. And we will continue to look for jobs because once you get out, we don't say goodbye. We say until we'll see you again because I hope you understand that. You're going to be 10 years down the road and you're going to go, Gus, I'm thinking about taking a job elsewhere. Or what do you think about this? Or you might talk to one of the Jeff Schetzel or Mike Stinton. You might say, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll give you feedback because that's what we're doing. This isn't 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's the rest of your life in this field because we can help you with that. But that's my word, and we will stand behind that. So I'll leave this open to questions if you have. Certainly the new students, feel free. The other guys have probably heard a lot of this. But there's no excuse for you to not leave here without something special. And you'll get a head start. And that's why we don't have, it's not 4 years. We want you understanding it, getting in it, consuming, and then get out into the workplace. And I want you to have jobs, not internships. I want you to get paid. And I want you to get the start of your career. But you can't, once again, I cannot stress this enough. I want you to love it. And do not be intimidated. Do not be scared. Those are all natural things. But find people who can help you with this. And do not give up. You're here today. And you're going to have doubts. And 90% of you will probably not be on the air. But that doesn't mean you can't have a great career in this business. Gus wanted to be on the air. Everybody that was a producer for me wanted to be on the air. But there's so many jobs, and it's so hard. This is the most competitive job field in America because everybody says, I can do it, or I'd like to do it. How many other job fields do we say that about? Not many. You're going to have unbelievable competition, but you're going to find out who you are here in the next 6 months, 10 months, year and a half. And I think you're going to be pretty damn proud of who you are when you leave here, because we will be. Any questions? Just fire away. You don't have to come up to the microphone if you don't. Well, how creative are you? You graduated in March? Oh, December, okay. So how creative are you? When you produce a rundown, or when you're saying, oh, why don't we add this graphic? Or if I'm gonna produce a piece, like what is different about what you do? That's where, I'd only know that by the eye test of what I see. Also, what kind of story ideas do you have? How creative are you? Kevin was talking about, you're gonna see a game, we're going to send you a clip. What do you see as opposed to what Bernsey sees or Carly sees? Like, what are you seeing out of this? That's where I'm fascinated, because you may go, hey, I'm interested in this, and I didn't even notice it. And it's all in the eye of the beholder. But I've worked with some brilliant people who see a story differently than I do. I was with Rodney Harrison on Football Night in America a couple of years ago. He got the job as an analyst on Football Night in America based on one thing. He was looking at a video of Tony Gonzalez, and he said, it's a pass play. I said, how do you know that? He said, you see where he is? He's a yard wider than he is on a run play. That's it. So small. But it was his eyes who saw that, and then we realized he sees something different than other people do. That's what you have to do. If you're cutting highlights, I can remember highlights that I did in 1994. And Rob Stone, who's now at Fox, did the highlight. And after every Sports Center, we would get together and have a meeting of what happened during the show. And I held up that shot sheet, and I said, "This was a great shot sheet." And it was Rob Stone who did it, because he did something different. That's what happened. You'll stand out. Talent will notice that, and they'll go, "Oh wow, this guy's got a different take on things," or he sees things differently. So until I hear that from you, until I see that from you, I couldn't judge that. But looking at a producer is hard, and that's where Gus comes in handy. And a lot of the other faculty who have been behind the scenes, they can tell you what they were looking for or what they did as well. But it's a great question, because on air, I can hear you and I can see you. As a producer, you're behind the scenes, you're stealth. But you gotta make sure that your approach is different than somebody else's, or what makes you unique. What else?
Dan? For the benefit of the YouTube audience, if you have a question, actually do please come to the microphone so they can hear the questions.
Oh, okay.
This is actually from the online audience. This is from Jason Clean in Omaha, Nebraska, and he would like to know what you would call your biggest career setback and how you overcame it.
Well, I didn't get a job in Dayton, Ohio. I was up for the weekend job and I didn't get it. And the news director said that he gave it to the other guy, he was better looking. And that's not easy to hear, because I knew more sports than this guy did. But I have to admit, he was a better looking guy than I was. Bastard. But I didn't understand local TV, because you have to have, the anchor looks a certain way, the co-anchor, and then the weatherman, and then the sports guy, and he was just blonde-haired, blue-eyed, good-looking dude. And I went, but he doesn't know sports. And so you're going to lose jobs, and you're going to go, Why did I lose the job? There's quota, there's a lot of things that are involved in this, and you're going to face this. You're going to understand this. I'm glad that we don't go, that's who we hire and nobody else. I'm glad that we have women who get the opportunity, that minorities get the opportunity, because it hasn't always been that way. But there'll be times when you go, I don't know why I got the job, or I didn't get the job, or I shouldn't have got the job, or I should have gotten the job. But I was devastated, where I just went, I don't know what happened. I nearly quit the business. But you're going to have those moments. And I always use the analogy. I don't care about the quarterback who threw the touchdown. I care about the quarterback after he got sacked and what he does, because that's when I find out who you are. And you've seen this before, where somebody just get leveled, and then you go, okay, how do they respond? And then that's when you find out how great somebody really is. You get knocked down, you get back up. And you guys are going to fail, and don't be afraid of it. You're going to fail. Some may get fired, some not rehired, some laid off. Gus is one of the most talented people in this business. He got laid off. I like to say he got fired, but he did not. He got laid off there. It happens to great people and great talent. It's a crazy business that you're signing up for. It is, but know that going in, because there's no exact answer on, if I do this, then I get to do this. We're trying to help you with that path, and that's one of the reasons why I came up with this idea 4 years ago, because I would have students say, how do I get in the business? How I got in is it's different than how Scott Van Pelt got in, or Bob Costas got in, or run down the list of people on the air. There's no exact way. But if you have, everybody has something in common, though, of getting into the business. And that is, you got knowledge. You got know-how. You got to start there. What else?
Hey, my name's Landon, and me and my buddy are starting a podcast. I was just wondering if you have any tips.
I probably don't to help you get started on that, but I just think if you're starting something and you put up your own page on YouTube, like, just get it out there. Don't expect, likes, and just do it. Get the feel of it. Don't do it to go, well, now I got a podcast, therefore I'm going to get... No, that's not the way it works. What is the podcast? How good is the podcast? Can you do it on a consistent basis? Is it once a week? Can you talk about something for 15 minutes? Can you add something that maybe I'd never heard before? Because a lot of people go, I could do radio. And then I watch them for the first 15 or 20 minutes when they do radio, and they go, oh my God, this is difficult. It's live. I do 3 hours of live every single day. And you got to have topics. You got to advance something. What is different about you? That's the challenge for a podcast. It's not just two guys sitting around talking. It's two guys sitting around talking and advancing a story, giving me something I never heard before. Because if not, then you're just another podcast, and that's not what you want to be.
Hello, Dan Kelly here. I was just curious, what was your favorite film to work on, and how did you find yourself getting those opportunities?
I met Adam Sandler at a Knicks game, and at the time, the person I was working with, Keith Olbermann, was supposed to be in Happy Gilmore, and Keith didn't fly to Vancouver to shoot his scene. And I saw Sandler at a Knicks game at halftime, and I said, hey, Sandman, and he goes, Danny P. He goes, your boy effed me over. I said, who's my boy? And he said, Oberman. He was supposed to be in Happy Gilmore. And I said, if you ever need somebody, I'm your guy. He goes, you're in my next movie, you're a cop, you're going to have a mustache, and your name is Danny McEffin Patrick. So he put me in his next movie, Longest Yard, where I play a cop and I've got a mustache. So after that, I just shot my 17th movie with him 6 weeks ago in Cape Cod. But I'm a school principal. I said, no mustache, no cop. I've graduated from that. I'm typecast here. Far more than that. But he is who he appears to be. He's a very generous, He's a great person and big sports fan. But yeah, it's been a great relationship. And I'm still amazed when I get the call. I go, Danny, I got a part for you. I go, all right. Yes.
Did you grow the mustache, or did they just stick it on your face?
They stuck it on my face. They stuck it on my face.
Hey, Dan. Please bear with me. I have a comment and a question. First of all, my name's Neil Fisher. I'm 50 years old, so I'm older than most of the students. I've had a love for sports journalism since I was like 6 years old, and I've been working as a print journalist for 28 years now. I work for a local newspaper for the last 13, and I even do some internet broadcasts. The two high schools I cover, the public address announcer and we do internet broadcasts for our home teams, for the home games. But I just want to say I'm like a big fan of yours. I've been following you since you went to CNN. I believe it was in '83. I listen to your program, but you're like my favorite broadcaster because as a print journalist, I was taught, and I believe now with all my experience, that interviews is like the key to being a good print journalist. If you don't have a good interview, you're not going to have a good story, and I think you're the best at doing your interviews. So again, I apologize if I'm being like a real big time fanboy, but please, understand I've been following you for like 35 years.
I think it's called stalker is what it is. No, thank you for the kind words.
And thank you for the school. I think it's great, and all the help we're getting, just being able to make contacts and being able to talk to people. But my question is, of course, I know at one time when you were with ESPN, you were doing all three mediums, print, radio, and TV. One of the things that I've had as a print journalism is I don't want to say burnout, but there have been times, and we've talked about this, Mr. McDonald, where you just kind of feel overwhelmed and overstressed, both physically and mentally. You have any advice, suggestions how to prevent that?
I haven't had burnout. I had burnout from ESPN. Like I was tired at ESPN. I didn't enjoy it anymore. That's why I left ESPN. But it's not that simple for someone like you. It wasn't simple for me. I didn't want to be taking up a chair that I didn't think I deserved any longer. And then that's why I decided to go out on my own. You're going to face this where you go, am I enjoying this? Everybody, you're going to run into this where you go, am I really enjoying this? And that's where you have to dig down deep and go, okay, let me get past this. Or maybe there's something else that I need to do. But as far as writer's block and print, and it's foreign to me. But I did face it. I had ESPN fatigue, where I didn't think I was getting better. And I don't want you to ever think once you get a job you can relax, because now that's when the adventure really begins. That's when you really have to step your game up. And you'll hit these roadblocks, and you'll say, have I gone as far as I can go? I run into guys who are on the air, talent, and they are stuck in a market. Do not take a job for money. Don't put parameters on, I got to be at this age making this amount of money at this place. Don't do that to yourself. There's enough pressure you're going to face. But if you're doing a job and you love that job, then you're among the fortunate here. But if you start to say, I'm not going to go there because of the money, or I want to be in New York. Can you be in Schenectady? Can you be in Billings, Montana? Can you be in a small market and do this? Because a lot of you're going to have to start out there. Can you go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where your life will be the Arkansas Razorbacks? These are things that you have to, because everybody has a grand plan, a bigger picture of all of this, and that's not how it works. If you get it, great. If you don't, can you still do this? Can you still do this in a smaller market? What if you have to shoot your own stuff? Can you? Everybody should be, by the time they get here, being able to shoot their own. Like being a cameraman, be versatile, be employable. That's the key. Because if you're one-dimensional, you're limiting your odds. If you're able to do a variety of things, you may want to be on the air, but hey, I'm going to go be a PA. As I told you, there were people who were PAs who are on the air now. They got in, they got experience, they went out to a smaller market, and then some came back to ESPN, or they went to other places. So there's no rhyme or reason for a lot of this. And you won't understand this until 5 years or 10 years down the road where you go, yep, he was right, this is crazy. But it's crazy fun, too. You get to do your hobby as a full-time job, and how many of us get to do that? So.
Hi, Dan. Rob Sony. I just had a question. I know, like, behind-the-scenes stuff, the preparation's really key to making the execution great, and there can be long days and long hours. How do you balance that while still consuming the content and staying relevant? As, you know, like the ESPN guy said, that sports knowledge is always, you know, kind of trumps everything. That's kind of the key. How do you balance all three aspects?
Well, I'm not sure I understand balancing it, because I consume it every day. When I'm not on the air, I'm consuming it. I'm reading it.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I just heard, like, you know, when you go, like, on the road and stuff, and there's just long days, especially if, like, you're a PA and you're cutting highlights and you're doing other stuff where you can't consume at that time. Like, is it just lack of sleep and just keep consuming it? Or I'm just trying to figure out the balance, because I know, like, I'll do, like, a podcast or something, and I'll spend 2 or 3 hours trying to make, like, a monologue and you know, topic and transitions, but those are times when I can't, you know, always watch the game. So how do you try to find that balance?
Even if you can't watch the game, because I don't watch everything, but I read everything. Okay. And I also, if I'm going to have somebody on, like we had Triple G on, he's got a fight tonight at the Garden. I watched other interviews just to get ready for that. Like, I wanted to see him and hear him, and then you do your homework. But if you're doing an interview, all you care about is the interview you're doing. But I do somewhere between 3 and 5 interviews a day on the show, so you've got to consume that. You just got to dive in, and that's what your job is that day. And if you're a PA and you're cutting highlights, the only thing you care about is that moment right there. You can catch up on the other stuff. You know, I go back and I was watching the Dodgers game because I wanted to see when Scherzer came in. And then you hear the post-game comments there. So, you know, do I want to have a guest off that show or off that game? You know, can we get Scherzer on? Can't get Scherzer. All right, can we get Strasburg on? You know, so you just start to think that way. And you'll approach stories, you'll watch a game. I can't watch a game. I'm horrible to watch a game with, because all I'm doing is looking at what can I get from this game? What's this mean for my show? You know, guest-wise. I don't watch for the enjoyment. And another thing, you'll lose some of that joy because it's your job. You know, I don't watch games the way I used to. I don't have favorite teams. You know, when you do national broadcasting, I felt like I'm doing a disservice to the fan base. If you're a Steeler fan and you knew I grew up a Bengals fan, well, if I say something, you're going, well, he's a Bengal fan. I stopped being a fan, and all I do is look at everything from a perspective of, I'm doing a show. And sometimes you'll go, there's nothing here to see. Like Seattle, you know, the night before, or the day before, or day of, I said, the headline will be, if Seattle wins, Russell Wilson, MVP candidate. And that's what happened. So my thought process was going in, or Rams, you know, Super Bowl hangover, the team that loses the Super Bowl a lot of times doesn't make the playoffs, or the Rams, that team. So that's how I'm viewing this. And that's how you have to view stories. Like, what would be my take on this if I had to do 15 minutes on a radio show?
Okay, so more or less just focus on the next topic. And
You just,
that.
whatever's in front of you, consume it.
Okay.
Eat it up. Because that's all anybody wants. If you're doing highlights for me, all I care is that you understand that, not, hey, I got to find out what's happening in the Big Three championship game or something. You what's in front of you, do it great. And then the other stuff, you can always play catch up with that.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Yep.
I'm actually going to interject with a question from the online audience.
Yes.
This is from Kurt Steele. He wants to know what you think about the variety of platforms in the industry now. For example, being an on-air reporter for a team's website, and how does the program address these areas?
Gus would probably have a better idea in doing that, but we want to teach you, you know, I've had people say, well, what about esports and doing play-by-play? If you can do play-by-play, then whether it's Rollins women's volleyball or esports, the ability to do play-by-play shouldn't change. Now, the information does, and how much homework you've done. But we're trying to put you in a position where even if you're doing something over here, but you want to do something here, they will be parallel paths. They're the same traits that you have to learn. And I think if you're doing something, and I know it's difficult online, and I hope that we're reaching out to those online just to let you know there's a lot of people in this room, but there's a lot of people out there who are still doing it and can still do this at a high level and still do this for a living. We want to make sure we're inclusive with you. And you can be a reporter for a team. But who is helping you with this? Who is critiquing you with this? If you're doing that and Gus gets to see that, or one of the other members of the faculty, great. I hope you're getting feedback. And if you're not, then let us know. But there's no reason why you can't do something online. With the equipment that we have now, and it's amazing, some of the things that I've seen with online, I'm amazed. It's quality, it's air quality. And do not feel like just because you're not here, that you're not really here in spirit with us, because you are.
And I'll just add to that for the online guys on YouTube. There's nothing that we teach that changes no matter what the platform is. You're in front of a camera, whether it's your phone, whether it's a studio camera, whether you're in front of a GoPro on top of a yacht in the Atlantic Ocean. Your interviewing learnings, your vocal training, your Mark Condren, how to do a package, all of this stuff applies no matter where it is you're performing it. So Curtis, one of my clients is the digital reporter for the Detroit Lions. Everything that I've ever told her is the same stuff I've told people here in our classes. It doesn't change.
And I can tell as soon as I see you on camera and how you sound, how comfortable you are. Like, those are just things right away, no matter if you're here or not. And then what are you saying when you do your stand-up? What kind of information? How are you when you ask that question? We had a student who did something for the Orlando Magic. Well, you sit down with, I think Sam did this, and you do something with Markelle Fultz. Okay, what is different about what you're doing with Markelle Fultz and his shooting woes? That's what I wanted to see. What is different? Because if you're just going to go, how do you feel about this season? There's nothing new there. And you as a consumer have to look at what you do and say, would I be interested in this? I ask my guys on my radio show every single day, would you spend 10 minutes in your car listening to this person? And that's the litmus test. Would you stop and watch this if this was on TV? If you were doing this report, or somebody else was doing this report, would you stop and watch? And that's another thing to always think. Every time I do an interview, I want to keep you in your car. I think out the questions. I want to get an answer that you'll hear and go, oh my God, I heard this interview, and he asked this, or this is what this person said. That's what you should be going for. If I watch one of your broadcasts and I don't remember anything, then you didn't do a good broadcast. And that's where writing, being able to enunciate, have some fun with it, also provide insight, give me an angle I never heard before. You're a consumer. Would you consume what you're putting forward? And that might be the best test for you. I do it every single day, and I've been doing this for over 35 years. Because I'll get defeated sometimes when I'll go, I did a bad interview. I didn't nail it. I let it get away from me. I got too cute with it. I'm still doing this because I haven't done that perfect interview. And that's what continues to drive me. You need to drive yourself. You have burnout. Okay. Suck it up. Go. Let's go. Move past. Because nobody has sympathy for you in this business. They don't. They won't. It's cutthroat. But if you drive yourself, if you are confident, if you push yourself, that's the biggest champion you need. And sometimes you forget that. Yes?
Good morning, Dan. Albert here. You mentioned about being a specialist or knowing more about general sports. Besides closing off certain doors by being a specialist, do you think there's other pros to it?
Well, you heard from Kevin that they're looking for people who know something about cricket, or something about UFC, something about baseball. I don't like if you limit yourself to that, but as I was talking to Tyler yesterday, you know, he said, I'm applying at the Major League Baseball Network. Okay, if you're all in and you know baseball, and that's what you love, and that's what you want to do, go for it. Because the sooner you realize what you want to do and can do, and there's an opportunity, the better off you're going to be. And he's specializing in baseball. And I said, go for it, absolutely. But I wouldn't encourage that, at least not now. But if it helps you get in the door where Baseball Tonight's going to hire you, or MLB, great, go for it. The best time to find a job in this business is when you have a job. Just remember that. There's nothing better than, I got a job, I can start to look elsewhere. The hardest part is getting that first job.
Thank you.
Yep.
Morning, Dan. My name's Mark Mativier. I actually have a huge interest in radio. And besides the obvious, I wanted to ask, what are some of the biggest changes going from on-air TV to radio? And also, what are some of the things we're getting taught in the program here, or some of the production qualities that never change between the two?
Well, it's still your voice. And you have the best voice coach in the world who is going to help you. So you start there. Now it comes up, you know, your content doesn't change. You know, you can go from being on TV to going on radio. Now can you carry a conversation? How good are you at interviewing? We teach you how to interview. Gus and I went through a seminar that was 5 days, 8 hours a day on interviewing. That was it. It's the best class I ever took in my life. It changed my career. If you want to be great at radio, you have to develop your voice. You have to be able to have, I don't want hot takes, by the way, because hot takes come back to haunt you. There are a lot of stupid things that you'll hear where somebody has a hot take. You know, this pay to play with college athletes, everybody had a hot take, and I said, can we just, like, I'm not going to have a hot take here, because I'd like to hear a little more. Nothing wrong with that approach with this. I don't think you need to be a flamethrower in there. But if you are, it'll stand out even more when you do have one of those opinions, where you go on a rant where you're taking down somebody or something. But don't have hot takes on a consistent basis. Have smart takes. Because when you have a hot take, it'll stand out even more. But be able to interview, how is your voice, and do you have knowledge? Are you able to carry, if I said, can you do a 3-hour show right now? And if I said 3-hour show, who are you going to have on? What are you going to talk about? You got to run. I have a rundown every day. Each hour planned out. Each segment, I know what the topic is. Now, the breaking news, Antonio Brown is getting traded. We change it up. Then we call a different guest. We cancel a guest. What do I know on Antonio Brown? You try, reaching out to sources. These are all this thing. It's a huge package that goes into that every day. And if you have that ability or that willingness to do it, then great. You can make that transition. I love radio. I love radio better than TV. But you now have these other channels and, Sirius Satellite Radio. There's a lot of opportunities there because, traditional radio is not the same as it once was. But, can you get ratings? Do people want to follow you? Why do they want to follow you? What makes you interesting? Would you stay in the car to listen to you? That's what it comes down to. And each segment, are we saying something that is of interest? Is that guest of some? I have to introduce people sometimes to a guest and say, you're gonna love this person. We had a writer on, Wright Thompson, maybe the best sports writer in America. He wrote a book. But in that book, he sat down with Pat Riley and Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods, and he really gave you something that nobody else has given us. And I said to people, if you're looking for a Christmas gift, our next guest will provide it. His book went, I think, #1 on Amazon after the interview because people bought it, because he was telling stories. And that's another thing. Get out of the way of a great guest. Stories is all, that's all we want in this business. You want a story to tell. And if you tell those stories, then you can be successful. But always think, would I stay in the car and listen to me?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tyler Vickery. I also do some commentary online already for esports racing. One of my main questions would be is what would your focus be on if you want to critique yourself after like a week down after a broadcast is done for any kind of racing series?
I would have somebody, and there's a two-part answer to this, because there's the knowledge of this, but there's also your technique in what you're doing. I would be comfortable critiquing your broadcast style, but the knowledge part of it, I wouldn't be doing a service to you. You need to find somebody. Now, I watched my SportsCenter show. Every time I did a SportsCenter for years, I'd come up and watch the entire hour-long SportsCenter. I was looking for mistakes. It was the wrong thing to do, but I was just hell-bent on being great, and how was my tie? How did I look? How did the highlights, like everything. And I got too into my head and I wasn't having fun. And I eventually stopped doing it. You got to trust somebody who will be honest with you. Every one of you, you got to find somebody who will be honest with you. It's the one thing you do not get in this business is constructive criticism. You'll get more constructive criticism in the next 12 months to 18 months than you'll get in your entire career. The more you move up the ladder, the less somebody sits down with you. That's where you have to say, listen to this, watch this, tell me what you think. And then if you get that honest feedback, where somebody knows I might hurt your feelings, but it's called constructive criticism. It'll hurt because it might be true. It'll hurt because you don't want to hear it. You want somebody to say, that is awesome. But it might not be. Are you prepared to hear, that's not very good? Or why did you say that? There's cringeworthy things that you're going to get. But if you listen to it, you'll get better. And that's the rarity in this business. A lot of people don't see. When I'm at the peak of my career at SportsCenter, I sat down with my boss, who brought me in, John Walsh, and I was there, if not, once every 2 weeks, once a month, and I just said, tell me what you're watching, what are you hearing? And he would be honest with me. And I'd come out of there, my head, hung, but I realized he's going to make me better. And that's what you have to get, somebody you trust who will watch what you do, listen to what you do, and then you're willing to accept it. That'll make you a better broadcaster.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan.
And I don't mean to provide doom and gloom, but I'm trying to provide reality. And when Gus and I sat down and we started talking about this, I said, I want our faculty to be honest with you. We don't want to just say, hey, you're going to be on TV, because you're not. And if you do, awesome. But we want to provide reality here. What you need to do, how hard it's going to be, how you get better. And you're not, these other schools, if you go to Syracuse or Northwestern or Arizona State or Missouri, they're not staying in touch with you like we are when you're done. You're a graduate and then you're gone. And look, that's their process. That's why I didn't want to have that. I wanted something that was unique. We have a cottage industry that we've started here, and that is to do it different, but do it right. Be correct. Be honest with you. So you know what you're getting yourself into, so you know how to get better. All of those things are essential to start out with, because I don't want to just pass you on and say, congratulations, here's your diploma. I told those 5 students yesterday, those 5 graduates, you better stay in touch. And I would say the same to you. This is our family here. It's the only way I can approach it, because my name is on it. You're in my family. Like it or not, I'm your daddy. Yes.
Morning, Dan. My name is Trent Osborne. First time, long time. I was wondering, what is the one situation in your career where you feel like you felt the most pressure?
Well, it's pressure I applied to myself. When I left ESPN, because I had 4 kids, ages 9 through 15, And I thought I'd made the biggest mistake of my life because nobody leaves ESPN on their own. They usually say, we don't need you anymore. Yep, Gus. But once again, he was laid off, not fired. That was a lot of pressure because, and this is another thing, that you're going to have families. You get married. Okay, how much money are you going to make in this job if you want to start a family? And the better you are, the worse your hours are. Like, I was good. I worked second shift. I'd get home at 1 in the morning. Monday through Friday, I didn't see my kids because they would be up and going to school before I got up. There's so much that goes into this. And that's why if you understand this, then you're not going to be surprised at this. But I think that we'll give you enough advice throughout this that hopefully that helps you understand all of this. I don't know if I answered your question or not. I apologize.
It was great advice anyway.
Thank you. Yeah. But that was, I felt pressure when I did the Olympics. But it's that, and I guess it's probably like an athlete. They're nervous. I don't care who you are, you're nervous. Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, he's nervous. He's no more nervous than I was at the Olympics. You're doing 6 hours of live TV, and you're covering events that you never covered before. And you got to get it right. And handing out the Super Bowl trophy. It's one of those where you're in the moment, and you got to make sure you do. There's 100 million people watching that. And the only way they're going to remember is if you screw up. So you want to be clean, ask a couple of questions, make sure you don't give up the microphone, and then get off stage. That's it. And the last time I did it was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And at the very end, so I have my producer in my ear. So he's counting me down. So he's going, all right, wrap it up, 10, 9, 8. And I said, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, underdogs no more. You're Super Bowl champions. 3, 2, 1. Let's go back upstairs. And then you're done. And then you walk off. And it's as proud as I've ever been, but it's not like, there's anybody noticing it, believe it or not, with 100 million people. Because you probably, I could ask you, did anybody remember that I'm handing out the Super Bowl trophy? And you probably didn't. But there was a moment where, when the Giants won the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots, one of their owners was trying to grab the microphone. And I get 2 questions with the owner, 2 questions with the head coach, 2 questions quarterback, and 2 questions MVP. And the owner, he grabs the microphone. So what is happening in front of 100 million people is he's grabbing the mic, and I'm trying to bring it back. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is, and I'm my producer's going, do not give up the microphone. In my ear, do not give up the microphone. And you want to say, I'm trying not to. And it was like this, and then like that, and I went, holy shit. He thinks he's going to, and he finally gave up. And I went, like, it's hard enough up there to do this. And I got the owner who wants to be live at the Improv. And Jeffrey Lurie, the Eagles owner, he said, hey, I got one thing I want to say when we're all done with the interview, okay? Prior to this. I go, okay. So I ask him 2 questions, and I think he's done. And I get ready to turn, grabs the mic, and I went, I'll be damned. He got me. Producer's in my ear, get the microphone back, And then I just reached over, I let him, because he said something nice about his parents. So I don't want to be like, nobody gives a, they don't care about your parents. All right, who's up next here? Let's bring in Carson Wentz, or Nick Foles. And I went, oh my God, this is heavy lifting. But those are things that happen in real time, and that was pressure. But when you're done with it and you nail it, it's great. But you're like a duck on water. People don't see you're paddling like hell to stay afloat there.
Hey, Dan. Mike Warren. As a Philadelphia native, I can just say, definitely remember you presenting the Super Bowl trophy.
Were you sober?
So anyway.
Okay. You don't remember that I was doing it.
So anyway, in the past, you've mentioned before that Ian Eagle is one of your favorite play-by-play announcers, and you've mentioned previously to us that it's the ability to be able to take something small and make it sound great is what makes you good, or borderline great play-by-play. For somebody who wants to pursue play-by-play, what other advice can you say to help them, or sort of shelter them on that right path, or that makes them great, that distinguishes themselves?
Don't make it about you. That's the biggest mistake that we make in this business, that you make it about yourself. And the great play-by-play voices have a style, but they make it about the game. Like Vin Scully loved the game. Keith Jackson loved the game. Mike Emmerich is the best play-by-play announcer, I think, in history. He loves hockey. Make it about the sport, not about you. Because if you push it out, then that's how we're consuming it. Now, there's charm that goes in, depending on what sport you're doing play-by-play for, that we hear stories, or maybe you talk to somebody at the batting cage. Maybe you got some insight, but push it out. When I did SportsCenter, there were times then we brought it in, and we didn't push the product out. And then we thought we were more important than the product, the highlights. Push it out. The interview process, it's not about my questions. It's about your answers and about me getting out of the way to let you tell stories. You push it out. And if you do that, then you'll sound differently. And just listen to Doc Emmerich do a hockey game. That man loves that sport. And he doesn't make it about himself. And I think charm goes a long way in depending on what you do. How does that voice sound? Does it sound warm? Is it something you want to hear for a couple of hours? Because that's another thing. If I'm listening on radio, you're in my head. If I'm watching on TV, it's a little bit different. Like Al Michaels that voice is so great. And you take it for granted now. But that's what you want to do. You want to be that voice, push that. And Ian Eagle never makes it about himself. He makes it about the product that he's broadcasting. And I think he's so underrated. He doesn't shout. He doesn't, have any shtick. He's just great at what he does. And another thing, you don't have to have catchphrases either. That's another thing that people think, I got a catchphrase, I can be a sportscaster. That doesn't help you at all. We did it because we got bored. We did highlights. We did more highlights than anybody, and live highlights. Sometimes we didn't get to see the highlights before we went on. We needed catchphrases to sort of, and another thing, do not write your shot sheets. You don't read a shot sheet. You deliver a shot sheet. When you're reading it, it sounds like it. And if you get caught behind when you're going to be on camera doing these highlights, you are in trouble. That's what happens when you script. If you want to be a sportscaster, then deliver it. Tell me about the highlight. Don't read me the highlight. And I always say, when you fill out that shot sheet, give me the information in the middle and give me some additional information over here that I can kind of pick and choose, depending on where I am with that highlight. I may have 7 seconds to fill. He's hitting .342 with runners in scoring position. That's his 98th RBI of the year. 4th inning. That's what you want to do. You have category A, category B. Pick from category B to fill in category A. But do not overwrite a shot sheet, by the way. Big pet peeve of mine. And you're going to write for somebody else if you're a PA, as Kevin was talking about. Are you able to put the information there, the information here, so the anchor gets it? And what you should do is you should do a shot sheet where you do it for somebody else and just say, here, read that on camera. Because that's what happens. You're going to give that to Scott Van Pelt, and he's going to read that highlight. And make sure you understand that. Do it in a way that he can consume it and not script it.
Thanks, Dan.
All right.
Hello, Dan. My name is Cole Johnson, and a lot of the feedback that I've gotten over the course of this schooling is I have been told to write less and give more facts at the same time, and I'm trying to find out how do you find that balance in terms of being able to give more information in less amount of time?
Well, it depends on what your on-camera lead-in. What are you telling me? How long are you on camera? I would always say 15 to 18 seconds would be the max that I would have. Because I'm going to set up a highlight, give you something maybe you didn't know, and then when you get into that highlight, we're an information-based sports society. But what information there's nothing better than when somebody goes, you know what their record is on Tuesday afternoons playing in New York? And you're going, oh, wow, okay. Like, just whatever it is, make sure it stands out. The great thing will stand out. You don't have to make everything one of those where you go, oh my God, that's an unbelievable stat. It's, if you have one, set it up, give it a chance, let it breathe, let me consume it, and then you move on. But I think it's how smart you are with the stats that you propose. Because somebody will go, the Rams have never beaten Seattle in their history, which is a stupid stat. I mean, it's okay. It's interesting from the standpoint of, wow, the Rams never win there. How many times has this Rams group played in Seattle? That's all I care about. How many times has Jared Goff played in Seattle? Then I care about it. But I don't care that, if you have a quarterback going back to Vince Ferragamo or somebody and they didn't beat Seattle in Seattle, I don't even think Seattle was there, but it doesn't matter. Be smart with your stats. Be smart with it. And I think if you do that, then the less is more is really going to pop for you.
Okay, thank you.
You got to kind of fight that urge, too. We want to overreact, overwrite, overtalk. And there's nothing wrong with breathing. There's nothing wrong with silence, especially on radio. See what I mean? No, but you get that where you're getting ready to ask a question or you get an answer and then you pause. It can be powerful. And I wanted to have a rhythm to my highlights. I wanted it to be down to the second of what I would say and how I would say it. So it'd be, here's the 3-2 from Strasburg. Pause, because I know there's a home run coming up. Pause, because I wanted it to be, here's the 3-2 to Cody Bellinger. And I wanted you to hear the at-bat, because then I could go, gone. And then I would go 35th on the year, Dodgers up, 4-1. Like, there's a rhythm to it. And I know I probably got way too deep into it, but it became a science to me. I wanted you to hear it, and you were able to consume it. So when I say 3-2 from Strasburg to Cody Bellinger, and then I don't say anything, you as a listener or a viewer is going to go, like, you're not sure. I know it's going to be a home run. You may not be. So I want to set up that, hey, there's some anticipation here. And those are things that you'll learn when you do these highlights. But you can't do that if you script your highlight shot sheet. Because I want to know if you know what you're talking about. It's just like Kevin was talking about. Do you know what you're talking about? And I don't know that until I see you on camera or I hear you. And then I'll know. It'll be obvious.
Chris Burns. I don't know if we've ever met, but...
Everybody know Burnsy here? Yeah.
So 2 questions. First one, people that follow your show on Instagram and follow your Danettes on Instagram, we always see the luxurious and bountiful amount of food that you have. When are you going to have your chefs come down here and cook for us?
What's your next question?
Oh, okay. Next question. So we talked about... So is that they're not coming down?
Is that your next question?
No. So we talked earlier today about the call that I had that my voice cracked. And so I wanted to know, what was your most embarrassing thing to happen on air?
I don't know if they know about your voice cracking.
So it goes like this. I said the wrong person's name, and it's like, Scar! That's basically like that.
So it's a dramatic moment, and it was going to be a highlight reel moment for Burnsy.
Yeah.
And he basically fell flat on his face.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair to
Basically,
say?
yeah.
So your voice cracked, and you had the wrong person scoring. Other than that...
It was good, besides that. Anything else?
Yeah, yeah. You're going to make mistakes. I don't know if I have one that is that bad, as embarrassing as you, but you're going to make mistakes, but how you recover from the mistakes, and there's nothing wrong with just saying, my bad, or, oh, I had the wrong person scoring. Because if you don't acknowledge it, then the audience is waiting for you. Like they get madder that you're not acknowledging it. Like you made a mistake. Hey, you made a mistake. And if you just say, oh, you know who it was? My bad, it was blah, blah, blah. And then you move on with that. But if you make a mistake on the air, it's okay. You're going to. We all have. Admit it, acknowledge it, move on. It's okay. It's when you don't that it's the elephants in the room. And people, if you're a sports fan and you go, wait, Joe Buck just said that Adam Thielen caught that. That's Diggs who caught that. Like you get indignant, you're mad. But then usually you come back and say, oh, my bad, that was Stephon Diggs with the touchdown. So, I think acknowledging it is just like I told you, you're going to make mistakes. It's what you do after you make the mistake where you clean it up. And I don't know if you cleaned it up after that. Did you say that who scored?
Yeah, Catherine O'Brien, number 4, senior
Okay.
from Massachusetts.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for answering my second question.
It's important to point out that sometimes your mistakes on air are because of somebody else. The producer, the director. We screw up sometimes too. Dan and I were doing the show the day that Mark McGwire broke the single season home run record. We had the highlight and we had the sidebar. Both, unfortunately, labeled Cubs cards. So we rolled the sidebar first. Before we even showed the highlight, we were giving the report on how we broke. It wasn't awful, but it was a mistake. Dan and Keith had to adapt on the air because of that. And then, if I recall, you also had a Baba Booey moment.
Oh, that was when we thought we had Steve Bartman, the infamous Steve Bartman. And I was doing the 6 o'clock Sports Center. We went to break because Jack Obringer, great coordinating producer, he's in my ear and he goes, we got Bartman. All right. So I said, coming up, blah, 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 and we will talk to Steve Bartman, whatever else I said. So during the commercial break, I get to talk to who I think is Steve Bartman. Because I think we've done all of our due diligence, that we've, totally, vetted him. And I almost asked the question, how do you think your alma mater is going to do this year? Because he went to Notre Dame. It's the only thing that I thought of after the fact. And look, this was a guy from Howard Stern show who was pranking us. But he got through the assignment desk, and then when he started to talk about, the foul ball and how it's changed his life and all those things, and I think he said, how does Howard Stern's butt cheese taste? And I went, oh, you got me. And that was it. I just said, oh, you got me. And then there was nothing else you can do because the audience knew it, and why not just, I didn't get mad, like, how dare you, whatever. He got through, I took my beating, and then you move on with that. But, it's live TV, and they snuck one by the goalie.
Hi, Dan. Nick Jacoby here. Just a quick question. Do you have a World Series prediction for this season?
I picked the Astros. I still think in this era of home runs, it comes down to pitching. It always comes down to pitching, whether you have it or you don't. And I think Houston's top to bottom is the best in baseball. So, and they have offense. Everybody has offense. Nobody's getting to the playoffs now where you go, yeah, but they don't have that much offense. Everybody's hitting home runs. But if you got pitching and great starting pitching, that's how you win championships.
I think my Yankees are going to have to prove you wrong on that one.
Well, they can hit. I just don't think that rotation is consistent enough.
It's fair enough.
The back end, the bullpen is great, but that starting staff is
it's shaky.
Not great. Yeah, they got to get by the Twins. So.
They'll do it. They'll get it done.
Thank you, Nick.
Hi, Dan. My question relates to the Kyler Murray interview during Super Bowl weekend. Yeah, I know. I know we chatted about it a few months ago in Mike Tuck's class, but I think
I thought that was the only time we were going to bring that up.
Yep. I'm back to bringing up again.
That's another situation where Kyler Murray came in Super Bowl week. He is representing Gatorade. He's getting paid to be there. He knows I'm going to ask him about playing football or playing baseball. His dad is there in the back. And when we start to talk, and I realize he's not saying anything. And even though I had a source who said that he's going to play football because he now knows he's going to be a top 10 pick. And so I'm trying to help him after a while. But I just couldn't get him. And then I finally started asking questions of his dad, who would be all the way back in the room here, because his son wasn't answering anything. I don't know if he froze, he didn't want to tell anybody, or is waiting for a big reveal. But if you're getting paid to be on my show, then you better give me some information here. Because once I said, oh, well, tell me about Gatorade. Oh, then he wanted to talk. And I just, I don't want to embarrass somebody like that, but I want to get them off the show as quick as possible because they're looking bad. And then when I found out that interview was sent around, all the NFL teams had that. All the NFL teams who were interested in Kyler Murray had that interview because they weren't sure what kind of kid they were getting. And I'd interviewed him earlier in the year, I believe in September, and he was great. So I don't know what happened there. Nervous, his dad's presence there, but that was one of the more awkward interviews I ever did. But even in that situation where I'm mad that he's put me in this situation, I still have to be generous enough with him to try to help him along. Because I wanted to say, hey, you should answer these questions. And I think the PR person was fired that day, which somebody said after the fact, because I don't know how you didn't prepare him. Hey, you got signed by the Oakland A's, you're making all this money. What is it about football that you're still attracted to? Whatever it is. But because what happens a lot of times is you'll have somebody sit down and they'll say, all right, these are the questions you're going to get. How are you going to answer them? That's what you do as a PR person. Could be, Michael Vick with the dog fight. Whoever it is, they should be ready for those questions. But in this case, I don't know how he wasn't ready for these questions because they're kind of simple. Do you want to play football? I don't know. Right now, I'm signed with the Oakland A's, and that's where my thought process is. What would it take for you to play in the NFL? What do you need to hear? I don't know. I haven't gone down that road. Like, you can fend off these things. I have to ask the questions, and that's another thing. When you get into these situations, do not interview somebody who says at the last minute, you can't ask about this. Don't do it. We had Triple G on. I was told before he came on, you can't ask about the Canelo fights. Can't bring it up. He only wants to talk about the fight on Saturday. I said, no, that's not the way it works here. Okay, you can ask one question. No, I'll ask the question until I get the answer I want. Or we don't do it. Because your audience they want you to ask these questions. Hey, I'm tuning in. What are you going to ask this person? And unless I say it up front, hey, we have agreed that we're not going to talk about this. That's the only way. But if somebody comes on, it's fair game. But this happened with Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was changing his image. And I thought, oh, let's reach out and get him on spring training. Like Barry was going to be nicer, and I went, oh, wow, okay. Right before we get Barry Bonds on, PR guy goes, can't ask about steroids. I said, we're not doing the interview. He's like, no, he's right here. I said, we're not doing the interview. And we didn't. People want you to send questions. What are the questions you're going to ask? Hey, such and such doesn't like to be surprised on the air. Okay, well, surprise. You're going to be surprised. But I don't do gotcha. I never want to embarrass you. I just let you talk. And that's another thing when you're interviewing people. Don't be afraid to ask a tough question. If you feel it's a fair question, then ask it. But I don't ever want to put you in a position where you go, oh my God. Or, yeah, I'm disappointed you asked that. You might be disappointed, but I still have to ask it. And you don't even have to answer it. But don't compromise when it comes to that. And you'll have these moments where somebody will say, I'm not going to bring, you can't ask me about that. It's like Baker Mayfield when he was on, and he got, arrested in Arkansas when he trying to flee the police. He never said, you can't ask me about it. And sometimes they'll tell you things you can't ask about, and I go, I didn't even think about asking that, but now that you mention it, maybe I should. What are you hiding there? So you're gonna face a lot of these hurdles with interviewing people.
Just want to keep it on the quarterback trend here. Who is the better quarterback in your opinion, Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz?
Carson Wentz is a better quarterback, but I have no problem giving Dak Prescott franchise money. I think he is sort of what Troy Aikman was with the Cowboys. That's what they're asking him to do. You don't need to throw 50 touchdowns. You don't need to throw for 6,000. You don't have to do any of that. Manage the game. And Carson Wentz, I think, is a better quarterback if he's smart enough to stay healthy and not trying to take on defensive backs anymore. But I think I like Dak Prescott a lot. Here's the problem I have with quarterbacks. When you're not drafted in the first round, we just think you're substandard. And Dak faces that. Russell Wilson, to me, if a game is on the line, aside from Brady, there's nobody I'd rather have than Russell Wilson. But you know what? We still have a hard time recognizing him as a great quarterback. And he might be the second best quarterback in the NFL right now behind Mahomes. But he didn't go in the first round. We're very elitist when it comes to our quarterbacks. That's why Brady, for such a long time, we kept saying, oh, can he do it again? I mean, what was he, a 6th round pick? He had to fight that. But, there's worse issues to have if you're some of these guys because they're getting $140 or $30 million a year. But, I like Wentz. I think he's more talented, but Dak's the right person for that Dallas offense, in my opinion.
Thank
you. Josh Rosen? Yikes. But you got to have a franchise quarterback. That's why everybody's still searching for that. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, like the Bears. Imagine if they had a great quarterback. Yeah, like Chase Daniel is probably, can do the same thing that Trubisky does. And he's a little cheaper.
Before we wrap, I just want to recognize a couple people. Dan happened to say the name Michael Vick. Michael Vick is with us today. It happens to be David Michael Vick. He's an online student down in St. Lucie. And yes, he's got a memorable name, but he does memorable work all the time. Everything he submits, he does something extra. He does something more than what the rubric asks him to do. So he's making himself memorable. Dan, you've seen some of his stuff.
Yes.
And then besides Michael, we have Sam Guzman, who most of you know. Sam is here today. Sam was among a handful of people who got to go to the Magic Media Day recently, and he put together a package that day on what he shot and what he put together. But he also went out to Rollins and created a 2-minute men's soccer preview package, edited, did the graphics, shot all his own stuff, and then sent it to me and said, here's something that I've done. Take a look. I'm not going to forget Sam Guzman between now and graduation. Hopefully.
But Gus sent it to me. And I went, I hope that I get a chance to say to you in person, Sam, it was well done, and it was creative, and it was in the moment, and, it was on deadline, and, that's what we're looking for. Gus shares videos with me all the time. He'll say, look at this. And 99% of the time he's saying, look at this because the students have done something great. He sent me Carly's tape, and I went, oh, my God, that's awesome. That's what we're looking for. And that's what you're looking for is just feedback. But he's the one that sees all of this, and then everybody else gets to comment on it. And I get, you're like my kid. I'm proud of when I see this because I just feel like the people who are here are helping you to become better. And there's no better feeling. And that's where, Gus said, look at Sam. Look what he did. He sent me 2 of his videos. And I went, awesome. And I hope, and that's really what the reciprocation is here. When you do something, and Gus sends it to me, and you get feedback, and hopefully that it's something that is something you can build on, or that you understand what we're doing here. It's different, and we will give you that feedback. So, Sam, that was really well done.
This isn't dental school. You don't have to like walk up to somebody on the street and, hey, go, say ah. You guys can practice what we're teaching you 24/7. You don't need us to keep getting better at it. Do it on your own. Give yourself the reps. You've got everything you need at your disposal to do it. So do it, because it's going to make you better. You're going to get Dan's feedback. You're going to get all these great instructors' feedback. But you can practice this all the time. So when someone like Sam or Michael takes the initiative to go, I'm doing something extra. James volunteered to do the auto racing show when I sent that email out a few months ago. First time, you went up to Atlanta on your own dime, right?
Yeah.
Ever since then, what's happened? They pay you. They flew you to California. Said, come work on our show because you did a great job.
You got to do the extra. Like Nick was a runner for the Giants and the Redskins. Like you got to do it. You got to motivate yourself. Don't wait for faculty to go, hey, I need that. Do those games at Rollins, as many as you can. Even if you don't want to do play-by-play, you should learn every aspect. If you don't want to be on camera, you should still learn what it's like to be on camera. When you have to talk to somebody in their ear, well, what's that feeling like? Like all of these things, you'll get a good sense of what everybody does, and it'll make you better at the job you have. But you got to motivate yourself, because if you're not, then that next person is, and they'll stand out and they'll get that opportunity.
Is Noah here today? Noah Matthews? Calling a volleyball game on Halloween, aren't you? How many volleyball games have you called in your life? Zero.
Good.
He's going to give it a shot. Again, Kevin McDonald said you need to know sports. Noah's going to know a lot more about volleyball now than he did when he started here. Maybe the Pac-12 is going to hire someone who knows volleyball to be a PA or who knows what, because they show a lot of it. Great. He's given it a shot. Where's Mike? Mike Warren. Said to him yesterday, you going to sign up for a soccer game? Like, it's great you did basketball. It's great that you got to call a game with Dan last year. But try some soccer. Try the softball. Put yourselves out there.
And if you can do those games, you can do anything. Like, we look at college football or college basketball or the NFL. Yeah, that's great. If you can do that, then you get a rhythm down of what play-by-play is all about. See the action, say the action, unless your voice cracks. And then allow your analyst to come in, set up your analyst. Like, it's all the same. It's just a different sport. And you don't know it. You don't know the athletes. Okay, then get to know the athletes. And then do it like you were going to do an NFL game. I mean, that's the way to approach this. You want to get the rhythm down of doing play-by-play. And you only get that by doing it.
Any parting shots before we go?
I'm proud of you. I am. You took a big step here. But don't get discouraged. And if you do, then understand you're not alone in being discouraged. This is unique. It's not for everybody. But if you're here, I guarantee you, you will get the best education of being a sportscaster you'll get anywhere in America. There's not the college atmosphere. Get past that. Because you know what? You'll be so far ahead of those students when they get out. First of all, you'll get out 2 years before them, and you'll have far more experience. The fact that when I told Kevin what we were teaching here, he goes, that's what we teach, you know, our interns the first year that they're there. I said, yeah, we want to bypass that. They're going to learn. They already know how to shot sheet, edit. They're going to know all of those things. And you could just see his eyes going, oh, you're making my job easier. That's what we want. You're going to be prepared. But don't be afraid. Have fun with this. And I appreciate you trying. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you all for coming out this morning, and thank
Thank
you,
you, guys.
Dan.